Who's there?
Happy day, Nurse Wharton.
Hello survivors and welcome to Survivor's Guild, the only channel that determines your odds of surviving 1995's deadly deliverer of desserts, Ice Cream Man. So stay tuned till the end for your survival stats. I'm your sharp-dressed slasher turned killer confectioner, GhostFake. Before we begin, go ahead and take a scoop out of that like button before shoving it back into the freezer, and lick that subscribe button to see if it's got the right flavor. And hit that share button to warn the neighborhood that the Ice Cream Man is a murderer. Now I hope you like grenadine. Horrible amounts of grenadine. Because this movie is getting spoiled. Ice Cream Man, written by David Dobkin and Sven Davison, and directed by Norman Apstein, and starring Clint Howard, Justin Isfeld, Anndi McAfee, JoJo Adams, Olivia Hussey, and David Warner. Ice Cream Man is about a happy ice cream man that's 2 scoops short of a sundae, who terrorizes a small community when the kids catch on that his ice cream treats are more than dairy, they're deadly. Ice Cream Man sticks in my mind as a prime example of the awesomeness that was VHS covers from the 80s and 90s. As a fat-ass child myself, there was nothing more terrifying than the idea that the man that I cherished so dearly, my friendly neighborhood ice cream man, might kill me and serve my head in a waffle cone. So the cover of the VHS was enough to strike fear into the depths of my soul, the likes of which have never been seen. That is until I realized that I didn't need to fear my ice cream man, I just needed to kill him before he killed me.
Hey! I'm not afraid anymore!
We open up to the Ice Cream King getting dethroned when a couple of gangsters drive up and fill him full of lead, teaching the Ice Cream King a lesson, lessoning him into the meat bank at deposit number 1, before Gregory walks over and asks the corpse, "Hey, are you gonna finish that?" and helps himself to the dead man's dessert. It's unclear whether this kid got a bullet lobotomy or if he was always like this, but what is clear is that Gregory is gonna have a hard time working through this trauma.
Who's gonna bring me ice cream, Mommy?
Cut to many years later, this kid Roger, who raids his mom's purse to go see Gregory, who has now claimed the throne as the Ice Cream Prince. He plays a game of grab the push pop before he gets yanked away, while the line grows impatient.
I could be a grandpa by the time you get your push-up.
We then get introduced to Tuna, who's picking up ice cream treats for him and his friends, Johnny and Heather, and Tuna points out something obvious.
That new ice cream dude's pretty freaky.
The group then heads to the park to eat their ice cream and to talk about the Pied Piper with their friend Small Paul, the final member of their friend group that they call the Rocketeers. And as they muse on the moral of the story of the Pied Piper, they get snuck up on by some old creeper who shares his ending to the story.
The Piper led all the kids down to the river and drowned them.
Wherein all the kids are drowned like the rats that the Pied Piper brought out of the city. But Small Paul begs to differ, saying that that's not how the story ended. And I have no idea because books are for nerds, and the only thing that I know about the Pied Piper is what Megadeth taught me. Rock and roll! Anyway, the Rocketeers get away, ignorant of the potential danger of the creep cleaning the park, while Roger sits alone on a swing, and the Ice Cream Man pulls up in his truck. The Ice Cream Man watches the creep pick up trash, which reminds him of the time that the doctors injected flubber into his skull, before Roger interrupts his flashback when he asks him if he is okay. Kid, look at this guy and tell me he's okay.
Ice Cream Man feels very happy.
If you say so, Ice Cream Man. Cut over to the Rocketeers, who have arrived at Heather's house when we meet her dad, Reverend Langley, before we cut back over to the Ice Cream Man, who has now arrived at the old Ice Cream King shop, where he now kind of lives, and he attracts the attention of Nurse Wharton's dog, when it hears someone in distress in Gregory's chest freezer. Gregory then offers the dog a push pop to get it to shut up, only to turn it into a pierce pop when it won't. Nurse Wharton gets up to see what all the dying dog whine is about, and Gregory pops up in the window with dog blood on his face, which he says is grenadine, before Gregory leaves to turn the dog into pooch tracks, or doggy road, or puppies and cream, or mint chocolate bitch. Cut over to Johnny's house, where we get introduced to his older brother, Jacob, who has plans on becoming a cop, and his girlfriend, Janet. Johnny shows up just in time for dinner, and just in time for Jacob to make fun of Tuna's name.
I will admit the twerp does stink like a rotten fish, though.
When their mom gets a call that the neighborhood thief, Roger, has gone missing, she breaks the news to the family and asks Johnny if he saw Roger at all that day, and he tells her that he saw him at the park, before Johnny's mom lays out a curfew and asks Jacob to keep an eye on Johnny.
I'm definitely not going to a G film.
We cut over to Gregory, who is having some sort of sugar-induced hallucination involving his landlord, Nurse Wharton, while he's passed out in the dirt outside her house. She wakes him up to let him know that the rent is due in a few days, which is 5 gallons of ice cream, which, when adjusted to today's inflation, is about 9.5 gallons, which he apparently pays for the old ice cream parlor. With deals like that, Nurse Wharton must be out of her damn mind.
I do so wish you'd plant one in my yard.
Yep. Cut over to the Rocketeers, who have just finished watching a kids movie when they go visit Tuna's dad, Martin, at work. Martin gets a call, whom he claims is Tuna's mom, but is actually Wanda, who he is all adulterous with.
Martin, I really want to see you tonight.
He gives Tuna some money and sends them on their way. Scoop over to the ice cream man, who is getting waved over by the cops who are looking for the missing boy Roger. They ask him to keep an eye out for anything strange, since they can't, before they order some ice cream. Gregory starts fulfilling their order, revealing a freezer full of body parts and organs, which we will later find out belong to the old creeper from the park, landing that creeper into the meat freezer at deposit number 2. The ice cream man prepares their ice cream by cutting out a cute marshmallow shape out of an eyeball and sticking it in the cone. He hands the treat over to Detective Maldwin, who dives right in before offering to buy Roger's mom an ice cream.
What, I was trying to cheer her up.
A little later, as the line grows for ice cream, homewrecker Wanda cuts her way to the front of the line and propositions Gregory to make an after-hours delivery.
That cute little house right over there. Come anytime.
Which is 1000% more disturbing the longer you think about it. A little later, the Rocketeers drop Heather off at home, while her mom and dad are enjoying the finer delights of organized religion. Are they having a rousing discussion of the doctrine of predestination while studying the Book of Romans? No? How about an intense debate over unconditional election as taught in Ephesians? No, not that one either? Oh, is the Archangel Gabriel speaking through Heather's mom again?
The Archangel Gabriel speaking through your mother again.
Alright, Meanwhile, the boys head home, and Small Paul asks if anyone wants some ice cream. Small Paul runs off to get ice cream, while Johnny stops at his house, and Tuna runs to catch up with Paul. But when Paul finds the ice cream man, he finds himself on an episode of To Catch a Prepubescent.
What do we have here? Want some ice cream?
And after Small Paul relates to the ice cream man over their love for ice cream, feeling alienated, and childhood illness, they then bond over a bloody trash picker and child abduction, which Tuna bears witness to.
You little turds are gonna have to learn you can't run from the ice cream man!
Tuna runs away and hides in some bushes when he finds Roger, who's decided to hide there too. For how long? We don't know. Tuna then runs home, but his parents are too busy accusing and being accused of infidelity to pay any mind to the stories he's telling about an evil ice cream monster who's out abducting kids. But once Tuna gets to his room, he notices the ice cream man lurking outside, and the next day he finds his shoes covered in ice cream and worms. Ah, the old filling people's shoes with ice cream and worms prank. Classic. He goes to the store with his mom, and his mom tasks him with grabbing some groceries. But as he's navigating the dairy section, the ice cream man sneaks over to buy supplies, and recognizes Tuna as the turd that ran away from the ice cream man, and he chases him through the store. But Tuna evades him by hiding on the bottom of someone's cart, before hiding in a walk-in freezer. The store reunites Tuna with his mom, and Tuna spills the jelly beans about the ice cream man and Small Paul. Cut over to the old Ice Cream King's parlor, when the cops show up to investigate Gregory for the disappearance of Small Paul, and the cops head into the parlor to search for the missing boy.
Wow, sounds like we're missing out on all the fun.
Destroying the mostly abandoned parlor, before they leave after finding nothing. Nurse Wharton comes to Gregory's defense and the police leave, but don't give up on suspecting Gregory, and decide to look a little further into Gregory's backstory. Gregory heads back into a shop where he brings out Small Paul to talk to him about the pitfalls of a police state, before reciting a mantra from when he was a kid.
Not every day is a happy, happy, happy day.
And giving Small Paul some of the remaining ice cream. Cut over to the Rocketeers sometime later, who vow to avenge Small Paul and to take down the ice cream prince by taking pictures of his crimes. They decide to meet up that night and track down the ice cream man, who they follow to the cemetery where he mourns the passing of the ice cream king and the destruction of the shop, leaving him a bouquet of ice cream cones, which the kids investigate after he pays his respects and leaves. They jump back on their bikes and follow him into their neighborhood, where he pulls over to peep on Wanda, and Heather takes the opportunity to get into the ice cream truck and take some pictures, while Johnny doubles back to get Tuna. But when Tuna finds out that Johnny left Heather alone, he speeds towards the ice cream man's truck, but gets surprised by Detective Maldwin's unmarked car, and shoots a rocket at it, thus marking it forever. And while the detectives give the boys a talking to,
there's a child stalker out there and you two are playing cops and robbers.
But what about Heather?
The ice cream man leaves with Heather potentially in the back of his truck. The detectives send an officer to the Langley residence and ask the Reverend to check on his daughter, which he does and finds that she's safe in her bed, and the detectives take the boys off the case. The next day, Heather takes the camera to the photo shop to get the pictures developed, while the ice cream man notices the cops that have been tailing him and gives them some ice cream cones. Back with the boys, Heather muses on the similarities between the Pied Piper and the ice cream man, while they wait for the pictures to get developed. When Jacob comes in and throws a fit about the kids stealing his camera, before he takes the ticket for the pictures and leaves to pick them up. Meanwhile, the ice cream man is peeping Wanda again, but discovers that she is having an affair with Martin Cassetta, which is news for him because he wasn't there with us when we found out about it. But when Martin gets in his car to leave, he finds that he's blocked in by the the ice cream truck, so he walks over to tell him to move, but is met with a waffle maker to the face, and gets waffle made into our meat freezer at deposit number 3. The ice cream man then heads into Wanda's house where she happily allows him in, cause she's ready for him, and he presents her with Martin's waffle head on a waffle cone. But when Wanda screams for ice cream, he has no choice but to use an industrial strength ice cream mixer to bludgeon her to death, bludgeoning her into the meat freezer at deposit number 4. Cut over to the detectives, who have decided to look into the hospital Nurse Wharton used to work for, the wishing well for the mentally disturbed, and Jacob and Janet go to pick up their lewd photos, realizing that the kids were right when they see pictures of the ice cream truck, while at the same time Gregory is teaching Small Paul all about making ice cream. Cut over to the Wishing Well Hospital for the mentally disturbed, where the detectives are following up on the hospital where Nurse Wharton met Gregory, where they find out that Nurse Wharton was all about keeping patients happy by giving them ice cream.
We believe in keeping our patients happy. We believe in compassion.
Before they realize that the patients are running the hospital, and the detectives quickly make a break for it as they get surrounded by mental patients, and eventually have to fight their way out. Scoop over to the Rocketeers, who run into the ice cream man while riding their bikes, who then chases them down and kidnaps Tuna, locking him in a freezer and taking him to the ice cream parlor. The remaining Rocketeers ride to Johnny's house where they find Jacob and tell him to call the cops, but Jacob, who wants to be a cop when he grows up, decides that this is his chance to make a name for himself and wants to take down the ice cream man himself.
Janet, I got the gun. The badge will follow.
And the group heads to the ice cream parlor. Meanwhile, at the parlor, Gregory is schooling Small Paul on the ice cream king.
He's like the Pied Piper, chases away all the bad.
Yes.
Before he hides Small Paul when he hears Jacob come in. Jacob walks right past the ice cream man, and the ice cream man deposits him into the meat freezer at deposit number 5 and takes his clothes. He walks out to the car and climbs in with Janet and the remaining Rocketeers, but wastes no time stabbing Janet in the head and sending her straight into the meat bank at deposit number 6. Heather and Johnny make a break for it and run across the yard where they find the police cruiser that had been tailing the ice cream man, but with the headless corpses of Gus and Charlie, the 2 officers Gregory gave ice cream to earlier in the movie. And when the 2 of them hide, they hear a disembodied voice, literally.
Hey, kids! Over here! I'm a cop!
Who calls out to them, before the ice cream man performs a puppet show for them, puppet showing Gus and Charlie into the meat bank at deposits 7 and 8. Johnny and Heather run away while Gregory plays with the severed heads, making jokes and making them talk to each other.
I guess 2 heads aren't better than 1.
When the kids run over to Nurse Wharton's house, and she lets them in, believing that they are just playing hide and seek with Gregory.
Hide and seek, hide and seek.
Meanwhile, Gregory turns his attention to Tuna when he tries to escape, only to be cornered by Detective Maldwin and Gifford. The ice cream man, realizing the jig is up, releases Tuna and retreats to the top of his truck, before getting the jump on the detectives and knocking them out. Tuna escapes to the parlor where Small Paul is hatching a plan, but just then Nurse Wharton, who is out of her mind, delivers up the 2 Rocketeers to the ice cream man, because she has no idea how hide and seek works. But just as he's about to take them into the parlor, Small Paul comes out with the ice cream king's picture and a flashlight, putting Gregory into a trance that transports him back into the hospital where he received his treatment. And potentially a treat from the Ice Cream King, who was dead at one point. But I can only assume that this is not an accurate flashback of the memory, because he had articles hanging up about how the Ice Cream King, Butch Brickle, was killed in a drive-by. So as it stands, he is still deposit number 1. Anyway, so Small Paul lures him into the parlor and next to the ice cream mixer before running over to the outlet and plugging it in, which pulls the ice cream man into the mixer and into the meat bank at deposit number 9. A little later, the cops all arrive and bring the kids out of the parlor, and sometime later, the Rocketeers, in spite of the fact that Small Paul is not dead, initiate Roger into their group. Roger asks about Small Paul and they say that he's in therapy. Cut over to therapy where we see Small Paul mixing ice cream, and the movie ends. So now, to find out, what are your chances of suffering survivor's guilt? This is where we take a look at our main characters and the death that surrounds them to determine your odds of surviving this movie. We start off our meat bank deposits with the Ice Cream King shooting into the meat bank at deposit number 1, followed by the creepy park cleaner at deposit number 2. Martin waffles in at deposit number 3, while Wanda floozies in at deposit number 4. Jacob botches his heroism in at deposit number 5, followed by Janet at deposit number 6. Gus and Charlie buddy cop in at deposits 7 and 8, and we wrap up our meat bank deposits with the Ice Cream Prince himself, ice creaming into the meat bank at deposit number 9. Now let's take a look at our survivors. We've got Johnny, Tuna, Heather, Small Paul, Nurse Wharton, Roger, the 2 detectives, and Reverend Langley, which means that out of a total of 18 characters, only 9 survive, giving you a 50% chance of surviving this movie. Given those odds, what's your favorite flavor of dog-flavored ice cream? Mine is mint chocolate, bitch. Let me know in the comments below. And if this is your first time on my channel, go ahead and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Also, huge thanks to my patrons for really hanging in there during my break. I'm sorry that it's been so long without a new upload, but I've just been way too busy at work. I'm hoping that things have slowed down for a little while now because I've got several scripts to record and several videos to edit, so hopefully I'll be able to keep the uploads going. But for now, as always guys, thanks and don't die.